So welcome, Matt.
Thanks for having me. It's as I said, it's good to finally catch up. It's great.
I know we've been meaning to do it for ages and ages and ages. And Matt, you're just a bloody legend. It's I don't know. I just watch everything that you're doing, and we've just agreed that we're as bad as each other. We have to keep busy to keep out of trouble.
Yeah, well, I think I look on my social media feeds and I think all I see is you. So I might be the male version of what you're doing.
Well, that's not a bad thing.
No.
No, we're both out to change the world, and coming from different angles, and we're both, at the end of the day, you're coming from a mental health awareness perspective, and I'm coming from a, hey, you're okay already, but let's go, let's make this better. But at the end of the day, we're both coming from a, how can we have a healthier life and a happier life, and how can we feel more fulfilled and live a great life, and I know there's people with barriers, like disabilities or mental health and that sort of, or just shit has happened to them, but I truly believe we can, just rise above it, even if just a tiny bit, just to have more joy in our life. So we're doing the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. I lived many years. I lived enough time down the bottom of life, scratching myself and wondering what next and how to get the wheels turning. So now that I know how to, and now I just want the same for everybody else. So I know it's possible, it's possible. And whether it's you're at the bottom of the rung of mental health or you're just climbing yourself back and you're functional again, we just want to give everyone the skills and the tools to level up. And it sounds cliche in life that there's levels to everything, but there really is. And once you understand that this is all a big game and you understand that we're in control of it, you can do what you can do and be whatever you want.
That's the point, isn't it? That a lot of people don't get that. And I try and get that through people's head all the time, is that we have control. Sure, there's external forces that are, keep smacking you in the head very often and pushing you over. But at the end of the day, it's our choice whether we stand up or not, and whether we take that step forward. And I hear a lot of people say, yeah, but my parents, it's their fault, they didn't. But I just think you got to take responsibility for yourself. You just have to.
100%. Well, we are in control, and our wellness is in our own control, and all of our decisions and our choices. Every single morning we wake up, we get two things. We get a chance and we get a choice, and it's what we do with our choices that makes the better of that chance that we have. And for a long time, as I said, I didn't do much with my choices. I made bad ones, and I sat and pondered. Poor me, life sucks. This isn't fair. The community's shit. And while I was doing that, life continues to smack you around. So, you get up, you get moving, and you start to understand that, I've got the hands on the steering wheel here, and I'm going to take my blindfold off and I'm going to drive the car, and I'm going to drive it in a direction that I want to drive it. And I'm going to hopefully take as many people with me as possible.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Some people say, to extend on what you just said, some people say, who's driving your bus, and I kind of see it like with this mental image that driving the car, you're in the back seat and there's someone driving, but a bus, it's kind of like I've put myself right to the very back and I'm letting all these other people, control my life. But, you're talking about getting up and, you made some bad choices and that kind of stuff. Right now, like, you are the CEO and founder of Mindfull Australia and Mindfull Aus, and you're a speaker and author, and you really out there kicking butt, helping people to say, come on, man, let's live a great life. But it wasn't always like that. So there's obviously a big, fat, ugly journey, sitting underneath this to prompt you to get there. So share with us what life was like for Matt before this discovery.
Yeah, I think, it's a fair journey of mine that I've been through, but I'm very grateful. I think first and foremost, before we get into the nitty gritty, is to understand that I appreciate every single thing that I've been through, whether it's been tough. You can't sit back and be shitty at all the things that went wrong if you're not also willing to appreciate all the things that went wrong for the good things that have happened because of it. And I only sit in this chair having this conversation with you today because of that stuff. And so I'm very, very grateful. I grew up in Warragul. A bubbly, smart-ass, cocky, energetic little 12-year-old kid with not a problem in the world, and my life come crashing down just through the emotional traumas of, I guess, losing friends. And as I started to get into the real world, I started to have some really bad bosses, or one really bad boss in the area of Gippsland, who physically and emotionally abused me day in, day out. And so that cocky, energetic, bubbly, smart ass kid had that bashed out of him. And so, I went from being able to achieve anything that I ever set my mind to not, not being able to get out of bed and not being able to do the things that I once found so easy. So, when you go through all of this emotional trauma at such a young age and you don't have an understanding for it, it's very hard to deal with. And so, I did the one thing that everybody says you do, and that's go and get help and support for what you're experiencing. When I went and got help and support, things got worse for me. I was labeled with different diagnoses. I had no understanding for what they were, no people around me that could hold and support that emotion and those different diagnoses that I was given. And I just think that's exactly what I'm trying to change, is that our inability as people to show up and support one another, instead of handballing each person off into the hands of professional services. Professional services do a wonderful job and we need all of them. But I purely think that, and enough science now shows that should be a last resort for a lot of us, to be going down those pathways of medications and things like that. And, I did that because we grew up in a world where that was what you were told to do. And, I could wish I could change the way I went about it as a young kid, but that's what we're trying to do now at Mindfull Aus, is to help people to understand the strength of who they are when they tap into the strength of themselves and their own unique values. And I guess, even as adults, a lot of us don't understand what that is. Don't understand our strengths. We don't understand our values. We don't understand our weaknesses, and therefore we never outsource them. So I guess I went through a lot of emotional trauma at a very young age through my apprenticeship. I promised my parents at a young age that if I dropped out of St. Paul's in Warragul, which was a great education that they'd given me, that I would go out and I'd finish my apprenticeship at the very least. And so that promise that I made to my parents nearly killed me for 4 years, just through the amount of suicidal ideation that I experienced, depression, anxiety, sleep insomnia, and everything else in between, whether that was, recreational drugs to numb the feelings in which I felt, which, I always had a handle on, not that makes it right. But I was fortunate enough to not fall down some other paths that other people did fall in the same areas as me. Alcohol, binge eating, all of these things that we know not to be good for us, but I did them. And I did them because I wanted to numb the pain in my head, not because I wanted to fit in, not because I wanted to belong, just because I didn't understand what I was experiencing. And it was a really tough place to be for many, many years. And, it was unfortunately for me, not for many years down the track, until I really went through some really, really, really tough times, that I stood back and understood that, unless I change any of this shit, nothing's going to change. And I can sit back and whinge and bitch and moan and carry on about all of the things in my life that are going wrong. Or I could acknowledge that the person that's having them happen to them so frequently and sitting at the back of the funeral so frequently has got some experiences that they could share. And maybe we could turn something around for somebody else at the very minimum, if not myself. But it was a very tough time. Sleep insomnia, one of the toughest things that I've ever experienced. I'd have 2.5 hours of broken sleep over 7 days. I'd lose 13 kilos to sleep deprivation in 7 days. I played footy with footy shorts taped to my body so they'd fit. I faded away to an absolute skeleton because of how unhealthy and unwell I was. And I didn't understand it. I didn't know what to do in those moments. And so I guess over the last, 10, 12 years, I've gone on a journey of finding out from all over the world, from the world's best change agents and leaders and thought leaders, on how to manage and live with these things that we all live with, so I could share it with the rest of the world. And I feel very blessed to be able to do that.
Oh, wow. You said, there's so much in that you just said, but one of the things, just going back to the start, saying, and I grew up in Warragul too, so there you go, that we're both Warragul kids. It's you're talking about, being a smart ass cocky kid in Warragul. I can just see that, I can just see how that.
I still am.
Yeah, I can imagine. But this, getting a boss that, was just downright fucking bullying, and it just shouldn't bloody happen. But, earlier on I had, I don't know, several episodes back, I had Alana McGregor on, and she had a teenage boy who was 17, and he got a job as a chef, an apprenticeship, and he was bullied so badly that he did take his own life, and his sister took her life, both within a month of each other, and I don't want to go down a whole big rabbit burrow now, because that's not what it's about, but about these bullies that, that just got no right to essentially take people's lives, because even the ones that haven't committed suicide, like you, it still ruins your bloody life. Like, unless you find the strategies or the coping skills to come back, and do what you're doing now, it's a life destroyed. And it anyway, enough of that, but that gives me the bloody shits. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the journey we're on. I mean, we'll never eradicate bad behavior and bullies and whinging and bitching in the world. We never will. All we can do is, as you said before at the very start, is put our hands back on our own steering wheel and dictate what it does to us. And, what I've learned over this journey is nobody and no thing in this world can put a feeling in me. It is up to me to put a feeling inside me. So nobody can make me feel shit. Nobody can make me feel crap. It's up to me. How do I respond to those situations? And when you have an imperative, strong bond with who you are, and you live in alignment with yourself every single day, people's comments and behaviors do not impact you. And, it's a lot of work to get to that place, but I believe it's possible for everyone. And while we, as I said, will never be able to eradicate bullying, let's put the strength back into the people in our community so that bullies don't have a place in this world, because they understand that the shit that comes out of their mouth does not fly.
Yeah, I love that. There's so many kids that need to hear what you're saying. So many teenagers so need to hear it. So are you working in schools like you're talking?
We are. In 2017, I developed a primary school program called Healthy Hearts and Lighter Minds. We work with kids as young as 3 years old to help them identify, control, and express their emotions in positive ways.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a breath of fresh air for me to be able to go and work with kids so young and talk about our emotions rather than talking about with adults about mental health and suicide and bereavement and grief.
Yep.
So, we work with these kids as young as possible, and we start the conversations about what it looks like to feel an emotion. And we know that we feel emotions different to other people. Yep. And once we can understand what that emotion is and we can start to articulate it, then when we need help and support, we're in a better position to be able to tell people, hey, look, Karen, I'm going through what I know as resentment, what I know as joy, what I know as disgust. And these kids as young as 3 and 4 years old have this articulation that they otherwise wouldn't have known. And so, we work with kids as young as preps and in early intervention center, early education centers, and we work all the way up through schools. And it's great work because, as I said, it's preventative work that makes new waves of young champions grow up in a world where they're equipped and skilled, unlike what I was, to be able to deal with these things. And life's tough. Life is hard. We've seen that over the last 2 years. We've had bushfires, floods, and a pandemic in Gippsland. We're some of the most resilient people in the world, Gippslanders, I think. But, we didn't grow up with this skill set. Resilience is built by stress only. So, we've got to go through these things, but we've also got to know how to navigate and dance and create magic with these things that we go through. Because I purely believe that every single person on this planet, their pain is their gift if they choose to use it like that.
Yeah, I agree. I love that you're talking about expressing your emotions, because this is something that's been suppressed for a long, long time. And, particularly boys, it's like, don't cry, don't be a girl, stop crying, and that kind of stuff. And if we are more expressive with emotions, exactly what you're saying, then we can prevent, we can get the conversation on the table before it does the damage, and it's, I love that.
I mean, I told my story for the first time in 2014. I think it was on a public stage, on a public forum, in front of people in a live audience. I told it many times before that, and I bawled my eyes out doing that, and it was tough and it was hard. I went out to Garfield Football Club last night. It was tough. It was hard. It doesn't change. It's still the same thing. You just get better at it. And as I said, your mindset gets better with it, because you know how important it is. And there's one thing I know to be true in all of the work that I do around the world, and there's nobody we can't love once we've heard their story. But the thing is, we don't give time to hear people's stories. We make assumptions, and we look down that shit tube about what we believe about someone instead of seeing the whole picture. And so the more we can understand and we can express ourselves to people, and they can get bits and pieces, they're better equipped to help and support us in that moment, because they've got more information than just an assumption. And we have a better understanding of just how many people go through the same crap that we all do. As I said, our pain's our gift. The pain that I go through has become other people's magic in their lives. And so it was for me too. Kevin Hines, Paul Dalio, these sorts of people helped change my life from the words that came out of their mouth. And storytelling is the most beautiful thing. They've been doing it it's not revolutionary. It's happened. First Nations people used to have a yarn all the time, and that's what kept them well. We've got to go back to doing these things and talking about it, because it might be scary. It might feel daunting. It might make us, sweaty palms, but we just know it to be important, is to share. We're not meant to get around this world suppressing who we are, or believing it's sexy to hide our emotions and the shit that we go through. We all go through it. As I frequently say, I live with bipolar disorder. I've got zero money in the bank. James Packer's got bipolar disorder. He's got billions in the bank. Me and him go to bed with the same problems. I can guarantee it. So once you start to understand that we all go through crap, we're all better positioned to feel more comfort in the conversation or in our chaos, whatever that is.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I've been talking about the Indigenous people, that's what they did. And I'm big on Hawaii. I've been there many times and I feel like it's my second home. And that they've got a thing called talk and story, and everyone just sits around talking story. And I think that's what all Indigenous people around the world, it's us, supposed superior white folk, like we're so big on academic crap, that we've forgotten how to connect. And I'm being generalized. I'm generalizing here, but
it's very true.
Connection is such a big bloody thing,
Yeah,
did a workshop yesterday. Well, it's not just yesterday, but I love doing some of my workshops with corporate organizations that actually invite and embrace that talking amongst themselves and sharing of emotions. And it's very brave, I think, for a lot of these businesses to say, Karen, come in and do your thing and let people share their emotions. And it could turn into a shit show, but it never does, because of holding a safe space.
Safe space. That's, I've been a public speaker right around the world for many years now, and it's not sharing my story that I love. What I love is creating a space where other people step in and share parts of themselves, and that's the cool work that I do. That's what I love seeing, where you create something and a platform for people to feel like, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. And when you see one person step in and you see another person step in, all of a sudden you don't want to be left out. And by the end of it, you've got 2.5 hours of, grown masculine men in a football club covered in face tattoos stepping forward and going, you know what, this is who I am. And I think it's a very beautiful thing. And if we can just get to that, and we can help Australia and Australians start to understand that, forget what you've ever learned or known about mental health, about these chemical imbalances and all this other bullshit that's not true. What's true is the human being is fundamentally wired for love, belonging, and connection. All we want as a human is to love and be loved, to be seen, to be heard, to be got being understood. As soon as we can understand that, we all know that we're as qualified as one another to help people when they feel like shit, because we can show up and start a conversation and make them feel loved, make them feel seen, make them feel understood. And we don't have to connect with the circumstance in which they felt the emotion. We just have to connect ourselves to the emotion. Now, everybody that I've ever met has been through some sort of pain before in their life. So when somebody's down and out, we know we can connect to the way in which we felt when we felt that. And if we can help people. There's nothing revolutionary about what I do. The only reason that we were able to help so many people, either myself or at Mindfull Aus, is because we just know that I felt shit before. And so if anybody else in the world's felt it, I can resonate with you at some level. And I can share with you what's helped me through those moments, but I can also listen. And the better we get at listening, the better that this country is going to be. We've got so many people in this world dying in silence, believing a narrative about themselves that's not true. And the only way we change that is to do it together.
Oh God, I love it. So you're giving me I got little tingles all up my arms. Absolutely. But you make it, you do make it so simple, and it is that simple. We've got this, we've complicated life so much, and it's just as simple as, and I say openly to people, I love you. I even said it to someone in Bunnings the other day, giving me some paint, and my partner said, "Did you just say I love you?" And I said, "Yeah, I did. It just came out. I didn't mean to do it. It just came out."
I've been doing it as a bit of an experiment lately. Like it doesn't matter where I go. So if I go through the Macca's drive-through and get a coffee or whatever it is, how many people go past that window and they grab and they go, I stop and I go, "I appreciate you. I hope you have a nice day." And when I say that, they don't know how to respond. They are completely stuck for words. They can't take a compliment. They don't know how to continue the conversation after a compliment. And it's just funny to see how much we really struggle with the idea of being grateful and appreciative for things, not only doing it ourselves, but receiving it. We really reject the idea of it. It's just, I look at public speakers around the world, and when I go over to America, it doesn't matter how bad I speak, there's a standing ovation, not because you're the brilliant speaker. Well, sometimes it might be, but most of the time it's just because we are going to get to our feet, because it takes us little effort and applaud to appreciate the work that you just did. But in Australia, the only way you get a standing ovation is if you're brilliant at what you do. Why can't we get to the place where everybody gets a standing ovation for the work they do, because we can appreciate the time and effort it took for them to do it, and the vulnerability, in my case, that it takes to do that work? We're a long way behind. And I think this stuff's very, very simple for us to do, and to share our appreciation and gratitude for people. I don't know how many speaking gigs I've done where I've talked about gratitude and appreciation and connection and love and belonging. And I've stood at the door on the way out, and people will put their head down and walk out the door and can't even say thank you. We've just spent 2 hours talking about it and you still can't. So, we've got a long way to go. It's not a criticism, but I think if we can be a little bit reflective about where we're at and where we can get to, we can understand that this isn't a long-term thing. We could change this if we just changed our behaviors. Quick sticks, if we all just showed up in the world a little bit better with the 1,440 minutes we've got every day, this world's going to be a much better place for us to live. And we're not going to see the suicide numbers we have. We're not going to see the amount of people in Gippsland and rural and regional areas that feel lost, lonely, broken, upset, sad, shades of the people that they once were or once knew to be. So we can make a difference here, and it doesn't take psychologists, psychiatrists, clinicians, therapists. It takes every single person to just show up in the world with their love glasses on.
Oh, I love glasses. It's a bit different to your poo glasses. I absolutely love that. And, we're talking, when you think about footy clubs and you think about Australians, we're very big on mateship. It's like, mate, mate, don't worry, I got your back, mate, got you, mate, and we are good. We are good at when there's a tough time, we pitch in and we help, and we've got people's backs. But that emotional stuff, that really is lacking in Australia. And I agree with you. I've done talks in America, the same thing. And it's just, completely different to hear. People are like, oh, yeah, well, but not always. But, it's like, and I agree with you. I just love that you're doing it. What was it? What was that catalyst for you that, because you're going through this, through the tough stuff, which you love, and I'm glad that you appreciate it, because we do have to say thank you, I love you, to all the shit that's happened, because we wouldn't be where we are. But what was that thing that the catalyst that made you slam that stake in the ground and say, that's it, I'm going this way and I'm going to make a difference in the world?
Yeah, I think they keep popping up. One early on was sitting at the back of my mate's funeral, Sean, and I sat 15 rows deep, 4 seats across. And, I sat there and I had basically an epiphany, like a mirage, like every single person in that auditorium with their faces of these people that I didn't even know. I didn't know any of them. It's about, close to 1,000 people sending him off. That's how many people loved him. And I just looked around on all these faces of all these people in this auditorium, and all I could see was my friends and family. Like the whole auditorium was just who would have been there for me had it been my funeral. And then, his mum doing a eulogy, Beck, all I could hear was my mum giving a eulogy about me. The songs picked, I would have been like, all I could hear was the songs playing that my brother would have picked for me. And it was just the most bizarre experience where I sat at the back and went, I'm not ready for this. And this is not the way this is meant to be. And this is not the devastation I want to leave on my community. So if not me, then who? I can keep whinging and bitching and moaning about all the systems and governance and government and policies that are broken in the mental health field, or I can get off my ass and do something about it myself. And that's where I get really frustrated with Facebook, because you see all these people that pretend they care. Come play with me. Let's show you care. I feel alone in this mental health field a lot of the time doing all this work, because there's not as many people as what Facebook suggests that there is that care about it. And I just sat at the back and made a decision that I got to do this, and I've got some experiences that cannot be taught. And it's going to be a journey, because you've got to get yourself well first, but we're going to go on that journey and see what it looks like. Because I knew what it was like to give up. I wanted to see what it looked like if I didn't. And I just decided I'm not going to give up. I'm going to go through those thoughts. I still go through those thoughts, but I just know that my thoughts don't have to become my actions anymore. And so I went on a journey of going right around the world, in advocacy, learning from the world's best thought leaders and behavioral health researchers and clinicians, and taken what I could. And I built my own blueprint to wellness, and I share that blueprint to wellness with people every single day, but I'm still growing it. I'm still doing that degree. I'm still losing people. I'm still going through all of the challenges that I always went through. So I think it was a real big catalyst that day to sit up the back of that auditorium. Going overseas has been a couple of big catalysts there where, you realize what you need to do and what you don't want to do. I always thought I'd be on international stages speaking around the world, and then you get back here and you realize that, well, you're over there sitting in pubs of a night time and sitting in hotels by yourself, and you realize that, hang on, this isn't really what I thought it would be like. And, I could probably go back and help my own community. It's sort of like Peter Pan, steal from the rich to give to the poor sort of thing. Yeah. I think we've got a lot of work to do in these regional and rural areas, and that's where I want to play. So, yeah, there's been lots of catalysts. They keep showing up. I still learn every day. I'm still growing every day. I'm a student of this thing called life, and I love it. As I said, I think 2 Sundays ago, I was feeling a little bit out of alignment. So, I ring my mentor and I'm like, yeah, I need you for 6-7 hours today. We're going to go down to Port Melbourne Beach, and I need you to smack me around for a bit because I've got work to do. And she does, and she does a great job of it. And I'm very lucky to have those people around me, but I know what I need now. And so when I need it, I go after it. But yeah. I'm very fortunate that I've had so many good people around me in this field of work, but that I didn't stumble on them. You've got to go searching for these people that are going to be your beacons of hope, that are going to smack you around when you need it, are going to keep you accountable. Yeah. That's the thing. It's the number one question that I always get asked is, what took you to change, and how can I change? What's that moment for you that I can have myself? And unfortunately, I don't want people to sit up the back of the funerals until for them to realize that something's got to change. But I just felt like I was at rock bottom, and you can't go anywhere but up at that stage. I'd bathed in that bathtub of bad limiting beliefs about myself for many, many years. And I just decided that day that I'm going to get out of that bathtub, drive myself off and start fresh. And I did. And it was tough work. It's still tough work, but I bloody love it.
Wow. I love the thing I love that you said in that was, well, all of it. I loved all of it. But you said, I wonder what it would be like not to be. I wonder what it would be like if I took an alternative path. It's
what if's a very, very beautiful question. To ask yourself. Like I often sit on my bed and go, when I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed or distressed or whatever that looks like, I sit on my bed and go, what if? Or what's one thing that I'm not doing well that I could do well? Or, what does it feel like to be me right now? These questions that I ask myself to reflect on what is actually happening in my world. And, I just reflected that day in the funeral and said, if not me, then who? So in other words, fuck, I'm going to go out and do something about this because I feel like there wasn't people doing it. I still feel like there's people not doing it. And the other one for me was, I know what it's like to give up. I wanted to see what happened if I didn't. And I've seen what's happened now, what happens when you don't. And that's really what I just want to shake people and show them what's possible for them. Because, I was picked up off the street in 2012 by Aurora and Holly Alexander. They saved my life. I was homeless. They removed me from danger. And, when Holly and Aurora shared it with me, they said, when I asked them why they saved my life, they said, well, Matt, we've seen something in you that we know that you couldn't see in yourself. And we wanted you to be here to realize it. And you have. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's the most powerful thing anybody's ever said to me. And I don't share those stories for any other reason, but to help people to understand, who can you be Holly and Aurora Alexander for in your world? And that's all I want to do, is to help people understand what they're capable of. The same way I couldn't see what I was capable of. Now I'm realizing it. And the world's, as I said, life's tough. It's not easy. It never will be. Well, I don't think it was designed to be. Yeah. But this thing, when it's working for you, you can conquer the world. But when it's working against you, it will conquer you. And I've seen both sides of that.
Yep, 100%. Oh, wow. Oh, I'm so glad you did it. I'm so glad you found that path, because the world needs you. There's no doubt. And when you say, who am I? well, it's not, you didn't say these words, but, you know, it's kind of like that saying, somebody should do something about it, you know, and it's that, well, I am somebody, you know, so I'm going to do something about it. And we have this imposter syndrome, don't we? It's kind of like, well, my story is not that great. No one's going to listen to me. I don't have any qualifications, do you know, all this kind of stuff. But we forget that we've got life experience is our qualification. Do you know, we've been there, done that, we bloody get it. That's enough, because if you're only a step ahead of somebody else, put your hand down, pull them up.
Pull them up. That's your step, that you've got one up on someone. You can make them, you know, you can help them. And you know, that's all I was doing for so long. And then I just got really super passionate about what I do. I live and breathe mental health. I mean, you know, I'd be happy to sit toe to toe with anyone in the world and talk mental health and you know, in the most humble way, say that I know just as much, because I live and breathe it. I've studied it. I have 22 different qualifications in the field. No one in my whole journey, I reach about 250,000 people a year. I've spoken in front of over 3 million people. Not one person has ever asked what qualifications I have. Not one.
Yeah.
Because people don't care what you've got until they know you care, and they know I care. That's all that matters. They know I care, and they know that what I deliver comes from the right place in my heart. So, you know, that's what I want people to understand is we've all got these experiences. People will feel that over everything else, like you said. So go out there and lead with your heart, not your head, because when you lead with this thing, people will feel that. And that's what we need to live well.
Yep.
Don't lead with this thing, because they'll feel that too. And that's where we make mistakes when we get up here.
Yep, 100%, 100%. And you said there that I only heard this a couple of days ago, and I don't even remember where I heard it or read it, is that I don't care about your knowledge. I care about the knowledge that you care, you know, or something like that.
Yeah.
It was something like that. No, I just love that so much.
Well, Hugh Van Cuylenberg from the Resilience Project reached out to me one afternoon, and he said the same thing to me. You know, I just said to him, you know, we talk all the time, and he just said to me, Matt, one of the reasons why a lot of people follow Mindful Aus and your work the same way I do and love your work is because nobody cares about your qualifications. People only care that you care, and you do that better than anything else. So, you know, that there for me just put to bed all of this misconceptions of, oh, Matt needs a psychology degree, Matt needs to go get his master's, all this shit. No, I don't. I go toe to toe with anyone who's done their master's, because I bloody care, and I live and breathe this shit every day of the week. And you can't teach what I've learned. You cannot teach it.
No, I've seen some real dickheads come out of uni, but they get their bloody bit of paper, but doesn't mean shit. Is if you don't have you haven't experienced it, it doesn't mean anything. Anyway, let's not go down that rabbit burrow, because I could get in trouble. Tell us about your book. Nobody Can Save Me. Like that's you know, when did you decide, right, that's the book I have to write and I'm going to do this? And
well, I'd put it off for many years. I had some publishers that tried to purchase my story many years ago. I think probably 2018, 2019, after, you know, 5 or 6 tours of America, I had some publishers that were pretty keen to get a hold of my book, and, you know, Fairfax and whatnot had wanted to buy my story. And I don't know, for whatever reason at the time I didn't do it, and I'm sort of glad it fell through, because I don't think I would have been ready to tell the story, to be honest. I know a lot more now, of course, and I'll know a lot more tomorrow. But I mean, when COVID hit, I just sort of reached out to one of the publishers and said, I think I'm ready to do this, and what a time to do it. And what was it the best time to do it? Probably not. In COVID, I was probably a shit version of myself, and you can probably hear that throughout the book when I'm speaking in it. But, you know, I wanted to create the book for a few reasons. I want to hurry up and tell people, like, I really want to get this message out there to get rid of these myths and misconceptions about, you know, medication and therapies and things like this, and what we're doing in this world and what the human being's fundamentally wired for. You know, I'm a big fan of the work that Johan Hari does. I'm a big fan of, this research and science has been there for many, many years about what the human being needs to function. But we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is how we can handball people off, and how we can give people diagnoses, and how we can medicate people. And, you know, every day in my work, I encourage and elevate people's emotion to a place in which they can feel comfort to go get professional help. That's great. But what I hate about what I do is every time I elevate emotions of people, they go and get help and support the same way that I thought it was right to do so. And then they come back to me and they're like, Matt, great. After hearing you speak, I went to the doctors. Now I've been diagnosed with A, B, C, and D, and now I've taken 4 different medications. And then they come back to me in another 30 days and they're like, Matt, it's not working. I'm like, no shit, it wasn't meant to. That's not the role of medication.
Yeah.
And this is my concern for the world. It's a massive concern for the world, because the more we speak about this, the more these things become mainstream, the more people that are going to go in doing what I thought was right too. And our doctors are handing these things out like Smarties, and it's not fair, and it's not right, and it's not what science says we should be doing. So I wanted to tell that. I wanted to do it in my way. That I'm not against medication. I'm not against professional services. I love the idea of both of them, but we have to know how they work and what we're doing, and we have to support them with holistic practices. Otherwise, everything that we do is ineffective. It's just a band-aid. So I wanted to tell that. I also have part 3 of the book, which is called The Blueprint to Wellness, which is all my skills, tools, and strategies in a nutshell, in 30,000 words or so, that I wanted to share with people. I have a plethora of people that come through my social medias and things daily that need, time and attention that I can spend with them. I don't have that time, unfortunately, for everybody that comes through there. So to be able to give them a tool for the, say, $30 book that they can, read as many times as they want, and they've got it there, and they can follow the same things that I do daily to live well, even though I live with bipolar disorder. So I wanted to share that. And obviously the storytelling component of my journey is just purely the vessel in which helps people to relate to what I've gone through and what they're going through. And, I could have I think I could probably write another 4 or 5 books, but I think I'll stop at 1 because it was a bloody exhausting process, to be honest. I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad it's hitting the right hands, and, it did really well. We've got it in, lots of the right hands, like I said, and I'm very grateful that people are valuing my words and my advocacy. And, it was an exhausting process. It's not one that I enjoyed, but it was, I think it's definitely going to be worth it for people to have something tangible in their own confines that helps and supports them the same way I wish I had my book when I was 12, 13, 14 years old.
Yeah. I think you've got another book in you. I think you've got a few books in you. You're just going to have to find the energy to do them. Your mate Hugh, he couldn't stop at 1, and I'm sure he won't stop at 2 either. But I love what you're saying, that it over COVID is probably the shit version of you, and I think that's a good thing. I think that it's more raw and honest, and it doesn't paint this perfect picture. It paints it, I'm going through this. I've come out the other side. I've got all these skills. I've got these coping strategies, and I've set up Mindful Aus, and I'm changing lives, but I still go through shit, and I think that's an honest, I think it's a beautiful document of honesty.
Yeah, well, you're right. It's, I really struggled over this journey. We're 6 or 7 years, 6 years into running Mindful Aus. I've been an advocate before that with other organizations. And what I've really struggled is when I first started, people really Mindful Aus blew up at the very start because I was real. I was, if I felt shit today, I'll tell you I feel shit, and as the journey's gone on, and the more people that, need me and look up to me, the more I've probably gone back into my shell of being not real. I'm always real. I don't know any other way, but I haven't probably shared a lot of the dark parts of the journey over the last 4 years that I could have probably been sharing, at the fear of how can I be the broken one when I've got all of these people relying heavily on me. Like, if I don't post on social media for 3 days, people are telling me. So it's just like, how can I continue this? And so I think the pressures of that really got to me throughout COVID, just being able to, I'm behind Zoom screens delivering keynotes, and then, people don't have their Zooms, their cameras on, there's no audio, there's no connection, there's no hugs, there's no laughter, there's no tears. And it just really ate away at me. And, I wanted to quit advocacy. I really wanted to quit. And I spoke about it with my board, with my parents, and just said, I just don't think I can do this anymore. I want to be someone else. And the truth is, a lot of my mentors said to me, Matt, I don't think you've got a choice, mate. Whether you quit Mindful Aus or walked away right now, I still think for the rest of your life, you're going to be that person to a lot of people. So, I just had to get through COVID and come out the other side. It was tough. It was really tough for me. I live alone. I work alone. And you deal with everybody's crap through social media that I had to put up with, not put up with. I love doing what I do, but what people do is they drop it on you and then run away, and they don't want to deal with it themselves. Yeah. So, it became very, very tough. I probably snuck back into bad habits of my own, aware that I was. And then, as we started to move out of COVID, I've started to, really ramp it up and kick my ass into gear. So, it's just, I guess it's like a boxer when they do a weight cut. That's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm just sort of fine tuning the skills, and I'm back out there, and I'm healthy. I'm happy. Life's good, and we're back. And I love doing what I do, and I wouldn't want to leave Mindfull Aus anytime soon. So it's just funny how you go through these things, and you can hear it over. I think I did something like 50 podcasts throughout 2020. When COVID went in, everyone went on a podcast, and I was a guest on a lot of podcasts, and you can sort of listen to them. You can tell what mood I'm in, depending on what day I was on a podcast would be how I went on a rant or how I cracked the shits. So, you got to stay real, got to be authentic to who you are. But as I said, I'm super grateful we went through what we went through in the most weirdest of ways. It's hurt a lot of people, but I think it's allowed us to look in the mirror a little bit more at ourselves and understand, what, I still do fall, I still do fail, I still make mistakes, I still stuff up. And you know what? Just like everybody else, there's no superheroes here. And as I said, let's do that weight cut and let's get back to being the best version of Matt that I can be. Do the gardening and get back at it. And that's what we're doing at the moment.
Yeah. And you're not the only one. Like over COVID, a lot of people wanted to quit. I wanted to quit. I was like, I'm quitting this shit. It's bloody, not the podcast, but, just my other work. I thought, nah, I'm just quitting it. But it's that, what, when you talk about resilience, and I've got this real thing about resilience is I believe the underpinning bit of resilience is optimism. It's like, I'm going to get back up because there's a chance. There's just that chance that tomorrow's going to be better. I really believe that something better is around the corner. For me, I don't know about everyone else, but for me, that's my underpinning thing is I just keep believing something's going to be better. And I'll just get back up again because I reckon, and I'm so bloody glad I did because I love this. I love this job I do, and I couldn't bloody stand it if I quit. But same with you. You love this. So
I'd be lost without it. But you're spot on. Optimism or hope for some other people, it's essentially it is. Resilience is built by grit and overcoming adversity. But in order to overcome adversity or have grit, you've got to understand that something better exists.
Yeah.
So you're spot on, that optimism and to know that something does better exist. And that's what I said about my thoughts. I still go through suicidal thoughts. I still go through all the same things that I was diagnosed with all them years ago. The only difference is when they appear, I've got optimism. I've got hope. I go, I know that you exist and I don't dislike you. I know that I live with you and we're going to get along. And when we don't get along, we butt heads for a little bit, but I'm going to learn something from it and I'm going to come out the other side. And that's my relationship with everything in life because, I'm a big believer that if we build a healthy relationship with all of the pain, discomfort, stress in our life that we have, we build healthy relationships with all of that. Then we conquer this thing called life. And I truly believe that. So, I have building healthy relationships with everything in my life that I dislike, and the world becomes a lot easier for me to live in.
Yep. Well, we don't usually, do we? We push them down and we push them aside and we say, don't you appear, and I don't want to talk to you and I'll have a drink and I'll something or other. But if we do learn to make friends with our darkness, because at the end of the day, everything is duality. It's positive, negative, black, white, dark, light, and if we could just embrace our darkness, well, I don't mean, it's hard to, but to acknowledge that it's there and just say, well, and you hit on it at the very start. It's the darkness and the pain and the shit. If we can embrace it and we can love it, and even if we can just say thank you for it, that's what builds us. Without that, we would never build. It
was like my relationship when I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. The clinician pushed a script in front of me, basically said, the way I heard it was, of course, these weren't his words, but basically said, unless you pump yourself full of medication, you're going to swing between suicidal lows to manic highs. By the way, Matt, people with bipolar disorder have a 9.5 years decrease on their lifespan. You said that you're going to, living with bipolar disorder, you're going to feel emotions 10 times more. So if you have a bad day, you're going to experience 10 times a bad day. But the only good thing is if you experience something that you like, you're going to like it 10 times. And so, I walked out of there going, shit, what's the point? What's the point in living with this thing that I've got, And that's when I really hit another snag and went downhill again. But it was people, like I said, sitting on the back of audiences listening to Paul Dalio, especially Ray Dalio, the billionaire, his son, Paul Dalio. I toured with him in America, and to see him grace the stage and talk about bipolar as his gift, I sat back there hating bipolar, and at the start I was like, this guy's an idiot. Like, what an idiot. How can you believe that living with this thing is a gift? And the more I started to listen, because I wanted to prove him wrong, the more intently I listened to everything that come out of his mouth, the more I was like, why can't I live like this? What's the difference between Paul Dalio, Kevin Hines, and me? Why do they think what they live with is a gift and I don't? And so it was just a matter of me changing the way in which I looked at things, is the way in which I live now. And as I said, if someone walked through the door right now with a cure for bipolar disorder, I'd tell them to go get, because I'm not interested, because bipolar has made me the person that I am now. And I'm starting to fall in love with this person. So, I don't want to can that relationship. I'm learning to love myself. And I think that's the most important thing, rather than holding on for dear life and wishing something else could come around the corner and save you from this thing, because it won't. I live with bipolar disorder, and for many, many years, everybody's carried this stigma that it's X, Y, and Z. And, World Bipolar Day yesterday, and I wrote about it. And, many years, people will tiptoe around the topic and eye roll when they think I'm crazy when I live with bipolar disorder. I speak about it like a blessing. And once we're going to get down the track in many years' time, and we're going to have 850,000 Australians believing that what they live with is a gift instead of a burden, and this world's going to be a different place for those little champions that grow up in the world, because it's a genetic disease, or just genetic disorder, that when I have kids, my kids are going to believe it's a gift because dad knows it's a gift, rather than dad saying it's a struggle and it's a suffering and life's going to be hard. My little ones won't hear that. They won't feel that, because that's not what it has to be like. So it's how we choose to look at these things in the world, is to how we dance and create magic with them. And, everything that I've been through has helped me create the magic that I've created.
Oh, I love that. I love it. It's funny how we call things a disorder and a disease, and just because it's different, we've
exactly
got such a, like, I used to do a lot of work in the autism space, and it was like autism spectrum disorder, and it's kind of like, it's all the wording that the medical field puts on everything, or it's just so. You straight away go to the negative. You don't.
We have to change it. We have to change it.
Yeah.
I don't talk about. A lot of people have noticed now that Mindful Aus doesn't talk about mental health. We talk about mind and behavioral health, because then we can understand that my brain's not screwed. It's actually the way I'm behaving, and so we can change our behaviors. And so,
I love that.
It's not an excuse. I don't do things because I have bipolar disorder. I'm not bipolar disorder. I make choices the same way everyone else does, and I've got to live by them as well.
Yeah.
And so as soon as we can understand that my brain isn't broken, I'm not broken. I'm just an emotional human being that needs my emotional needs met. So I'm not a broken machine that needs fixing. I just need my emotional needs met. But in order to do that, like we said before, we need to express that. And I just think if we change the articulations in the mental health field, we're going to change the field. We should remove the word mental. We should remove the word suffering, because suffering is a choice. We should remove the word, there's so many words that we could change, and we've changed what it looked like. I mean, depression's a crap word too. Bipolar is a crap word. They're all crap words. If I could, as I said, bipolar is hardly a gift when you look at it like that word, but I'm telling you right now, it's a gift. And 34% of Pulitzer Prize winners and 17% of Nobel Peace Prize winners, Heath Ledger, Ernest Hemingway, Winston Churchill, Catherine Zeta-Jones, I bet these, Carrie Fisher, I bet they'll tell you that bipolar disorder was a gift, the same way I do.
Yeah. And when you put it in that way, that it's emotional, I'm an emotional being and I just want to share my emotions, that just makes us the same. That sort of language just puts us all in the same basket. We're all emotional beings, and we all just want to be loved. So there's no distinction about, well, you've got a disorder and you're normal and you're this and you're that. It just takes away all the labels and all the boxes and just says, we're all humans, for Christ's sake. Can't we just bloody love each other?
That's right. When we look at people the same way and we don't pigeonhole people because of what they live with, this world again will be a better place. It's the way Screen Supercamp does it so well, because as a facilitator of 150 kids and 70 of them might be on the spectrum, I don't know which 70, because I don't care. because every kid is the same beautiful young kid in front of me as the next person. Just because you go through something does not make you any more special, does not make you need any more things than other people do. I'm going to treat you all the same because you're all beautiful kids.
Yeah.
Whereas if we start to look at someone like, he's the naughty one, he's the challenging one, he's the thing, labels belong on jars, not people.
Yeah.
So when we remove those labels, people start to function in the world the way they should function, instead of limiting themselves because they believe, I've got autism, I can only, I've got bipolar, so I can't, I live with anxiety, so I can't public speak. No, these are stories that we create about ourselves that aren't true. And the same way we create a story about other people is the same way we create a story about ourselves. And it stops us from achieving the things that we were born to do.
Yep.
You know, bipolar disorder, he told me all those things that were going to happen to me. None of them are true. I don't swing from suicidal lows to manic highs. I'm not medicated. And he said I'd never be able to. I haven't been medicated in 6 years, and I'll never be medicated because I chose to look at things a different way. And I'm no more different to any other person. In fact, you know, I'd back myself if there are 1,000 people in a gymnasium that all went through the same problem. I'd be the first one to remove the problem because I've done the work. And this is what I want people to do. Not because doing the work's hard, because doing the work's worthwhile. It's always worthwhile to live like this now instead of the way I was. I just want people to understand what that feels like, because we don't have to suffer. We don't have to struggle. We don't have to. We're all strong enough.
God, I love you, Matt.
Oh, it's mutual. It's mutual. I love you too, and I love all the work you do.
Oh, ditto. You're just a bloody legend. I just love this open talk, and I crave it. You know, I just crave that we can. I remember, you know, Garth Brooks, and he put this song out, you know, Tomorrow Never Comes, and then later on Ronan Keating did it. And I remember listening to that song, you know, probably 20 times or more before I couldn't cry, you know, while I was listening to it. And, you know, that line, so tell that someone that you love just what you're thinking of if tomorrow never comes. It tears me up now just thinking about it. And I started then saying to people, I love you. And what I noticed in this, and what this song really, really brought to my attention, was that we only say I love you when we feel like it's going to be reciprocated back, you know, and if we think that we're going to be rejected when we say it, we hold ourselves back from saying it. And so I made this decision, and this was probably 20 years ago. I made this decision that I'm going to say I love you because that's how I feel, and it's not contingent on what you're going to say to me or how you feel about me. That freed me up. I can tell you that just was the most freeing thing, because then you can just go around saying it, you know, oh God, I love you. God, I love you, you know, and it's kind of like you're not standing there waiting. Is that okay? Do you love me? It's kind of like, just fucking say it. And it's like the world's so much better. So I just love that you're doing that. I love.
Well, it's the same thing. A quote that really resonated for me was, and I'll probably get it wrong, was, we never give the flowers to the people while they're still here to smell them. And I think that's been very true in my life. You know, like I've got 10 mates that I'd love to sit in this room today and have these laughs with you and have these meaningful discussions, but, you know, I can't. And, you know, all those things that I wish I had said and done and known for them so that they could still be here. We've got to start giving these roses out while people can smell them. We've got to start telling people we love them. We've got to start appreciating people. We've got to start screaming from the rafters how much we appreciate and love people and what they mean to us, because one day we're not going to be able to. And you know, we're seeing that right now with the people that we're losing for all different sorts of reasons. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. Anything could happen to me this afternoon, could happen to you this afternoon, touch wood, you know, that we don't want that to happen. But that's the truth. That's the reality of what we live with. And when you start to understand, this is why I sit in an hourglass here, is because if that hourglass right here and I cover that up, who knows what I've got left? Who knows what I've got left, you know, and that's ticking. So if we start to understand that we're just in an hourglass and at any moment we could be all out. And so you just start to live a little bit better, live like we got cameras on you at all times. And I bet we'd start behaving better. So these sorts of things that would change people's, the way in which we, you know, go about our life in society would change if we weren't so entitled. Yeah.
You've just said two beautiful things there that are just such good things for people to take away from this. that hourglass thing, just sit that right in front of you. And as you watch the sand go through, you think, shit, I've just lost that time, and I didn't do anything valuable with that time. I could have texted someone, "Hey man, I love you, mate." You could have done anything in that time. And the bit about the cameras, and if that were the only two things that people took away from this, which I don't want them to just do that, I want to take away a stay. But like imagine how many people would suddenly just elevate, just because of those two things that you just mentioned there, and live a life that's, well, the authenticity, but also the integrity. It's this
integrity. Yeah, important.
It's so important.
Yeah. Live your life like you're in your own movie and you're playing the main character, and the cameras are following you around street, shower, bedroom, 24/7. And I bet
that's not cool, Matt.
But I bet our the ways in which we spend our time will be better spent, and I bet the ways in which we speak to people, greet people, meet people, would be improved. And like you said, our integrity in all other areas of our life would change as well. And I still, I don't sit here Peter perfect. I make more mistakes than any other person,
No.
but I do it with the hope of with everyone's an opportunity for learning. And I feel like I've wasted enough of my life sitting and swimming at the bottom and gasping for air. So I don't want to waste any more time that I've got left doing the same thing. So if I can help somebody else to recognize that they too could make a massive difference in the world, well then, I'm all about that.
Yeah, well, you're not Peter Perfect, and I'm not Peter Perfect, and in fact, that's what makes us, more lovable, is the fact that we're not going around preaching that we're bloody Peter Perfect, because those kind of people give us the shits anyway. So
no, I break the law most. As I said, I think I said to my parents the other day, I think I break the law most days of my life, and they were like, "What do you mean you can't go saying that?" And I said, "Well, I either speed, or either I'm on my phone, or I'm jaywalking, I'm doing something." So, I am far from a saint, but you know what? We only ever trying the best with the time that we've got and trying to make the most of it. And I can't undo all the things that I've done that are naughty or that society frown upon. But my life's out there for everybody to take shots at. But it's a much easier way for me to live now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's authentically and integrity, isn't it? So, Matt, I've loved this. To finish off, what do you want to say to people who are struggling mentally? If we took that word out, but we can't just for that sentence, but what do you want to say to people who are struggling?
Yeah, I think to acknowledge that every single thing that you are going through right now, no matter how difficult, challenging, painful, stressful, or overwhelming it is, to know that it's happening for you and not to you. And to ask yourself that what would be possible if I was to use the shit that I was experiencing right now for the betterment of either myself or somebody else. And it's really the way I turned my life around, was to understand that, and to know, as I said, we get in such a bad habit of thinking that the world is just picking on me and life's not fair and sucks and this doesn't happen to other people. Well, with that attitude, it'll keep happening to you. And that's what happened to me. So, step outside your own emotional bubble, step into somebody else's, and acknowledge that the world is happening for you. No matter how difficult or challenging it is right now, that stuff that you are experiencing is your gift. It is your magic. You just need to find ways to dance with it, to navigate around it, and to maneuver it to make your life better. And I know that it's possible for every single person. I'm exhibit A of that. So, knuckle down, grit the teeth, and know that left foot, right foot, one day at a time, or 1,440 minutes at a time, which is 1,440 opportunities today, tomorrow, or whenever you want to start, to make a difference in this world. And if we all have that same approach, this world's going to be a very, very beautiful place to live.
I love that. I heard the other day this great saying, we're never stuck. There's always somewhere to go. So just like you're saying, put left foot in front of right foot and let's just go. You also said something else too, that life's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And then I think there's another step after that, and now let's make it happen from you, and put that out. So Matt, I bloody love this. I love you. I've absolutely loved this conversation, and you just the way you articulate it and the way you just put it out there and the way you normalize it is just fucking amazing, because we need that. We need like that. And I love the way that you're coming from emotional rather than coming from let's fix this problem. You just trying to expand emotions and put the conversation on the table and help people to just say, hey, I'm okay. Well, I'm not okay, or sometimes, but I'm okay as a human being. Do you know? And this is my story, and I love it. Matt, where can people find you? Because they're going to want to follow you.
Yeah, on Facebook or Instagram, you'll either find me, Matt Runnalls. I think you'll find me on both of them. Mindfull Aus, you'll find us on both of them. But alternatively, my website, mattrunnalls.com.au. As I always encourage people, instead of following, get involved. Let's do something together. Let's create magic. As I said, Karen, I would love to do some work with you. I'd love to create magic down there in Gippsland together. I know it's possible. So, whoever's listening to this, we've all got things that we're sitting on that we can create magic in the world for. So if there's an idea or there's a thought or there's something like that, let's do it. Let's play in it. Let's see what comes of it, because there's a lot of work to be done.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I'm in, Matt. So if you think of something or you want to do something, we'll do something together, because I bloody love what you're doing. I love it.
Yeah, likewise.
And I love the love.
Yes, absolutely. Well, yeah, exactly. There's nobody in this world we can't love once we've heard their story. So again, I love following your work, Karen. I love the work you do for Gippsland and the wider community. So thank you for starting these conversations. I know it'll get to the right people, that's for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. And I feel the same about your work. So you're just a bloody living legend. And thank you for staying on this path and that we didn't lose you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.